much for that, and I acknowledge Highway's vision, if you like. What I would like to say is the vision of someone coming from towards the roundabout, but not on the main road, then the sight of a vehicle coming along there and someone coming out of the new development, the proposed new development, would be a little difficult, I would have thought. And I make it merely as a point and hope that that can be clarified by Highways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got 4 more speakers now. I've got Councillors Curran, Duff, World and Mullins. So Councillor Curran first, please.
Thank you. Following on from the highways issue, I do think that it's quite a serious issue for pedestrians. Already on that area, it's difficult to cross the road from any side of the pavement, and those people who will be potentially living there in the future, it needs to be made safe. Whatever we do, Highways needs to make it, whether there's zebra crossing or something like that, there needs to be some safe crossing zones set out, and maybe continuation of the wrought iron railings to actually stop you crossing in the wrong place, because people will do that. They'll cross at the nearest opportunity rather than the safest place. So that's something for the future when it comes back. I am more leaning towards that being favourable, that the changes are starting to get there, yes. I do pick up on the point, though, that Mr Featherstone made about 2 Jubilee Park. I do think the resident there still thinks that the closest properties to Jubilee are in the region of 3 metres higher, and they do see that as an issue. So I wouldn't like us to completely drop that and say, it's okay, I don't think it's resolved yet.
Councillor Curran, I've got Councillor Duff next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Clarification really on this height. Reeth Featherstone said that the height thing had been, the question of the height, maximum height of the building had been reduced. And from what Councillor Parsons said, it sounded as if it had. But I see Mrs Hepworth complaining about the height, so I'm not very clear if the height is as it was proposed when we went on the site meeting, or it has now been reduced from that. I'm grateful for clarification. Thank you.
So I've got that one on. Yeah, the point was made that was made earlier in the statement about the height of the building was obviously in advance of the latest drawings, which I said literally being provided today, and hopefully those have illustrated how heights have dropped, more variation provided. So they're now getting closer to much closer to the existing building. Previously, the ridge of the building was about 2.5 metres above the ridge of the existing building, and you can see how it's coming down in certain parts of that. So I think hopefully that's resolved. But obviously, we will be reconsulting, so we will be getting formal views on that.
Thank you. No, that's fine. That's very useful.
Thank you. Before I carry on to Councillor World, can I just ask members if they have any comments or can think about any comments about the actual materials being used? I think it was mentioned that there's going to be a mixture of brick and stone in response to Councillor Blackie's question. So if members can think about that as well while we're having the other contributions, that would be really helpful. Councillor World next.
Thanks, Chair. When Richmond House is being demolished and a new complex being built, can we have a rule that none of the heavy traffic goes along Quaker Lane, but has to go down Victoria Road, up Queen's Road, up Potgate and out? Because if they try and get along the old Brands Terrace, Quaker Lane, well, they get stuck. And if they tried further along Quaker Lane, then everything will come to a standstill. And I mention it now so that possibly, Mr. Featherstone, you can mention, you know, truly developers and contractors.
Yeah, I've made a point on that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilk.
Thank you.
Councillor Nutland.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, it's good to see that there's progress being made. As far as the materials are concerned, I think perhaps Mr. Featherstone might be able to advise me whether that's something that that has been there in the past, a sort of a mixture. Are there, you know, do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't.
Well, what I meant was the original building, did it have a mix of materials and was something that we're replicating, or is it is this a brand new idea? Something to fit in with all.
The original workhouse building, I think was predominantly stone. It's quite, there's not a lot of evidence. It's quite probable that most of it would have been stone.
Right.
The change in materials is in response to the comments that were about the blandness and the sameness of the terrace. And it is something that's obviously quite typical of Richmond. In reality, it's fairly well known. I think only about a third of buildings in the conservation area in Richmond are stone.
Right.
A third are brick and a third are render. And it's an approach that's successfully been used probably over the years. And you think of the new development down at Culloden Mews at Cravengate, which I think is that quite well.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm so pleased, Councillor Blackie, perhaps you'll now understand why my question was asked. As far as highways is concerned,
Not your night, is it?
as far as highways is the issues that have been raised about highways, I think we need to see what highways say, rather than just preempting what they might say, because obviously it's their speciality. They know what they're talking about, so we need to see what they come back with. But occasionally, yeah. I'm quite happy to propose the deferral until the July meeting.
Excellent. I'm happy to second that. It looks like members will agree with that. We've got Councillor Gardner next.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. 2 points. One on the materials. I'll take Peter's point. There was two gable ends that he mentioned to be able to watch the colour of. They were quite prominent on the photographs on the things in white. I take that you'll address that. My only concern of that elevations is that the roof line is a lot better than it was, but my eyes are immediately drawn to the horizontal window lines, and I would perhaps like to see those lines broken up with different size and different shaped windows, which would enhance each individual property.
Are you talking about there being basically a single window style in all of those?
Yes, and the fact that they're all on the same horizontal line. I know the top of them probably have to be, but I would like to see the different sizes, and perhaps one longer, and just simply to break those two lines up.
They are subtly different in terms of heights, because as the heights of the buildings change.
I take that, yeah, but when you look upon it on that line, and you will see that from a distance when the things are built, you will still see that horizontal line of building of windows.
Yeah, I think maybe that drawing perhaps doesn't do that effect full justice, because I don't think it would appear that way. I mean, in formal architecture like that, you would always expect to see windows done in that sort of style. You wouldn't expect to see random variation in a more formal composite elevation like that. And I think to introduce variation may actually then draw more attention to it, and perhaps make it look more out of place than anything.
If I can come back, Madam Chair, I think I take your point, dwelling by dwelling, Peter, but we've tried to break the line up from that barrack block that it was, and we've pretty well succeeded with, certainly if you look at the roof line and the materials used. My concern is still that those horizontal lines right across the 4 or 5 properties is still there, and it still has that effect on me as that barrack type of. And my point is, if dwelling by dwelling, if they were made more individualistic, then I think it would look better, that's all. Maybe that's just diagrammatic, but if it, you know, in the final details, I'll be looking at that.
I'll take the point and discuss it with the architect.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean if it isn't that there's anything that they can do, then obviously they'll have to come back with exactly what they've got here, won't they? But obviously that's something Mr. Featherstone can discuss with them. Councillor Wilson-Petch, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Very quickly, I'm sorry I missed the site visit, but I'd just like to say how impressed I am with the work that's been done by both the developers and our development department on the changes that have been since the last meeting. I'm really impressed with the work that's been done, and I'm more than happy to support the.
I think that's almost an excellent note to end on, but Councillor
Determined to ruin it.
Madam Chairman, I think adding to the commendations that have been filed across the committee tables here by Jimmy Wilson-Petch, I'd actually like to add that members have actually made a real contribution as well to coming forward with what appears to be a design more acceptable than the design that we saw last month. We do have a role to play here, Councillor Petch.
I'm sorry I missed the site visit.
So did I.
Well, you didn't play your role, did you?
Thank you. Well, on that cheery note, now we've got Councillor Griffiths.
Well, we're going to have a competition as to who does the last, which item.
It'll
always be you, won't it?
Yes, of course, as chair.
Yeah.
So, given that we've had it proposed and seconded that we defer this item to the July meeting, could I have a clear show of hands in favour of deferral? Thank you very much. I think that is unanimous.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
We will now go back to item